The truth is, our bodies, this is a fact, are a communal hive organism of all of our ancestors and all of their race memories, but not in just some compressed epigenetic system. It's beyond.
Yeah, fully. What's up? Mhm. I know, right? What's up? Hey. Oh yeah. Sorry, I changed to a different mic. Let me make sure that is not peaking too much. That should be good based on the test I did. Um, should probably get going. Yo, I've got all the 80s pressings. Ah, boy, you're in the right spot. This is gonna be straight up Steve Hoffman hours. Um, it's yeah. So yeah, I went on a recent actual like physical haul at a store, and in addition to some recent like tweets and stuff about this topic, I figured I'd do like a straight up haul video because of it. So went in. First of all, I mean, we'll space out the Zepp content in terms of how deep I'm going to go into like, well, Bob Ludwig, his fingerprints are all over this one. Like, I, it's not really like, that big a deal. But a lot of that is. I can smell the cold. So I walked into this place and they had this. So this is pretty infamous. This was complete for $10. And that's not crazy. You can find this complete on Discogs for like probably 15, maybe not 15 shipped. Um, they'll give this away all day because this is not like a box set. This is not what a collector wants. This is from another time and place. Like this is a special package. This is something that's designed to, be a sort of like a nostalgia trip, a revisitation of Zeppelin. Like it was never intended to be authoritative in the way that we think about remastering and box sets now. And so, for a lot of people, that in itself rules it out. But you can get it for absolutely nothing. And it's really interesting because it's a unique package. Like it's 4 CDs. Again, it's totally ahistorical in the sense that, these CDs don't represent, like there's different blends and mixes of songs into other songs, the gaps and everything. A lot of those things are, like I say, ahistorical. They're not like properly correct to the original albums. These masters are also essentially the basis of any Zeppelin CD that you will have bought or are likely to buy since this time. So the remastering, this is the first major Zeppelin remastering project. His last name's Marino. I think it's George Marino does it. And almost all the CDs since are just tweaks of this, whether it's like in Japan, they up it by a decibel for, it's like Ryko or Rhinos, and the single CD correct, album art, correct track listing and everything with the correct fades and all that of those all come out as single disc CDs after that in 1990. And, they're correct in terms of the artwork, but they're the same masters. And so is this. So this is the complete box. This is the gray box from 93. And this is this is everything. First of all, it's all of the albums, but again, no historical reference packaging. It's completely, you know, like its own stylization. They come in these little black books with a micro of the album art, and then, you know, like a big, you know, tons of historical information, liner notes, etc. And so, you know, this one for me, these are the Merino Masters 2. Some people believe that they're a little bit hotter, whatever. You can get this, and this is essentially, there's like, I don't even know if there's 2 or 4 songs that exist that are even real outside of what's in this. And you can get this for like targeting 75 to 80 bucks complete on Discogs. A lot of times like classic rock stuff and whatever, there, you know, people are so finicky about what's the best, what's the ideal, that you can really kind of get a bag out of that mentality by thinking in the inverse way of like, really, is it that different? I mean, in some cases it definitely is. Like, for example, this is notoriously one of the worst remasters of all time. I think it's 2007, the Mothership box. This thing is an absolute abomination. Like, it's an atrocity against your ears. It is so brick-walled, and the treble is so distorted and like blown out to improve, you know, that the high side properties, which is like it's complete. In that case, you're completely talking about like headphone mastering, basically. Like, we're trying to get the sound through to you because we know there's going to be background noise. Like, you're someone who listens to music in your car or whatever, you know, digital, you know, it makes me sick. Yeah, I can see that. But this one is essentially like, stay away from this. Like, so everything I'm saying except Mothership, you know what I mean? Like, this is the one, just, there's literally no reason to get this piece of crap. It's awful. But the curious thing is, the box I just showed you, the gray box, has been replaced by this. This is the 40th anniversary definitive collection box set. And what's inside this is little replicas of each album in slipcases. This is like the favored presentation of archival CD, whatever now. And these are actually also distinct remasters. So everything before this, before the 40th anniversary in 08, was mastered by that guy, George Marino. And so these are different. Whether they're based on them or they go back to source tapes, you can go to like Steve Hoffman forums and read 150,000 threads about this. The problem is, this thing ain't cheap at all because people like it. This is a good presentation. It's a very strong presentation. It's a really good sound. And like, even audiophiles are like, this is great. This is a really great place to be with Zeppelin, you know? This is barring all the arguments about vinyl, etc. So that box, the gray box, I had got that back when it came out. I don't have this, and I don't really feel the need to get it. I grew up with the Merino remasters, so like anyone sort of Gen X-y or even older, boomers probably, were getting the Merino remasters as like, this is new ears Zeppelin. And we're all like probably irretrievably biased toward the sound of them, which isn't a bad thing because they're good. But I started noticing something else. Oh, so the other thing that was sick that this store had, and the reason that I decided like, I'm gonna like drop a bag on this place. When I walked in, you always look on the first thing you want to do is look under the counter. If they got a glass counter, all the special crap and weird stuff, all the high ticket items, whatever, that are in there, that's going to give you a really good indication of like this person's background. Like, they probably started this store, you know, unloading their collection, their friends' collections combined, whatever. And a great way to figure out if you're likely to find good stuff in the racks is, do they have like, you know, funny, weird pressings and rarities? And also, you're going to tell right off the bat, like, are they charging crazy, stupid money for vinyl, etc.? You know, are they essentially out of their minds? Like, you know, I want $500 for mispressing First Ramones with the wrong song title, like a letter left off one of the tracks or some shit. You know, get out of there, because that store is just looking to participate in the revalidation of like stupid collector mindset that is totally invalid. So they had this down there, which is the little CD replica, the mini CD replica of 8 Miles High. And they only wanted $8.99 for it, which, you know, whatever. It's a collectible. It's silly. but I love the Do. I've got the Numero box set, and I've got everything Do's ever done. When I was a kid in actually 8th grade in the States, that's, you know, essentially like, I don't know, 13 years old, somewhere around there. That's when I first heard Husker Du. I had a friend who was like going to school in Boston and would go to real record stores, and they had already heard stuff like Pixies, and so I was hearing like cool bands first from them. And they had gotten a record store clerk had recommended Flip Your Wig to them, and that just blew my mind that could have been from 1985. Like, it's one thing when you hear REM and you're like, oh, there was some cool music back in the early 80s, that's wild. But like Husker Du is a whole other fucking like skull crack. And I got super obsessed with them, and I have like all their stuff. So yeah, this little replica, I don't know when they actually pressed it. I think it was like 88 or something. I didn't pull it up on Discogs, but yeah, it's a cute little thing. Most of the time people aren't going to overcharge for this, I can't imagine. But I also don't know how many copies you know, Greg and company printed up. But yeah, it was a neat little thing. And so that was where I was like, all right, I'm gonna see what they got. And then I saw that Zepp box set for $10, and I was like, oh no, there's an interesting idea. Like, because now I can listen to that again. I didn't have it when I was a kid. That thing was stupid expensive when it came out in 1990. And like, as a 15-year-old, I'm not dunking my lawn mowing money on that shit. Like, no way. It was stupid money. And then shortly after, they did a second version of it. So like, the individual albums, like I say, from the same remasters, the Marino remasters, were all coming out. So you had the single, you know, period correct artwork, correct everything versions of that coming out alongside. But then they came out with the, you know, then they came out with the whatchamacallit, the second remasters box, which was a long box instead of the vinyl size. I never got it. It was significantly weaker. Like, the artwork was really cool and psychedelic, but the running order was kind of stupid. And it was just like, they spent so much time and energy on that first one, and there was so much inspiration clearly behind it, that like they did not spend on the second long box one that was 3 CDs. So that one was of no interest to me. And again, by that time, all the individuals are out, and the gray box comes out at the exact same time too, which is, again, some people say the gray box is basically like a slightly boosted, you know, but not walled tweak on the Marino Masters from the 1990 project, whatever. So one of the things I noticed when I went in this store is like, clearly some local people, probably really high side Gen X or low side boomers, had hit some trouble and sold their whole collections. And the cool thing was, not only did they have that, not only did they have the box that I got, they had quite a lot of OG CDs. And these are pretty fascinating, because these are mastered by someone else, and they're mastered at a time when no one knows how to master for CD. So they're extremely conservative and intended to replicate the, you know, the noise levels and properties of, this was the box set too I was talking about. Maybe, oh, wait a minute, maybe it was in vinyl format. I thought it was a long box, or maybe there was a long box version of it. Anyway, this thing, ugh, I did not like it. But this was the second iteration of the crop circle kind of project. And then again, I showed you this, the complete studio recordings. And again, for me, value-wise, the fact that you can probably get this for under $100, and it's the complete recorded works of Zeppelin, this is where I would send anyone, versus the mini LP one, which is just going for stupid money. But so the interesting thing about these original pressings, these were prepared, you know, again, you don't know if the information is 100% correct or whatever, but the date on these, when you get into it, is 1984. Show all 762 versions. Good Lord. I don't know, how long is this going to take to come back? We're really applying a lot of pressure to the Discogs database right now. Oh my God, it's literally like choking out. Anyway, so the CD of this, of the OG first album, you know, whether it dates from 84 or 87, it's essentially widely in circa 87. And there's two different sort of runs of it. There's the clear Atlantic one. A lot of people think this indicates that it's earlier than 87 because it doesn't have full color disc printing. It's just the red stripe. Like old Elektra CDs, similarly, WEA generally, they look like this. Like Cure CDs and stuff, they look like this. So that indicates it's probably the earlier of the two printings of this. But So the person who mastered this, his name, it's something like Brian or Barry Diamond or Diamant or something. He's posted on Steve Hoffman about this in the past, and he says that these are like right from the tapes. They don't have EQ, and like they even have some hiss if you really crank them. So again, in terms of reproducing the original sound and your ability to do that, these might be the best way to do that, because you can put them through a real stereo system and amplification, and they can tolerate that. They can tolerate the headroom because it's there. They're not already boosted for headphones and close listening and, you know, punishing attack and clarity or whatever that you try to do artificially with the brick wall methods, which is on a sliding scale. There are decent, you know, brick walling is horrible, but the process that leads you to brick walling can be great. You can add punch to records that needed it, but the technology didn't exist to provide it, and it can make a really sonically pleasant, you know, improvement to the record. The problem in this case is that these are like historic LPs, historic pieces of rock history. And so, you know, again, digital, this is a digital copy of the reference master. Like, this is a mindset thing, but this is a stored piece of like digital media. And so, you know, you rip it to FLAC or lossless or wave, and you get the original recording as close to the original vinyl masters as you can. Now, those were mastered for vinyl, for the frequency response of vinyl. So yes, there is a delta there in terms of what's delivered, but it's so close to me, especially now that I'm like fucking old. My hearing's not what it used to be. I have tinnitus. Like I can't fucking tell the difference. For me, I love this, and this has become a thing I've started doing recently. I'm looking for old 80s CDs of stuff because you can get them for nothing. No one wants or cares about these. Discogs, retail, whatever. And again, in my case, I went through there and someone had clearly dumped their whole thing, because not only was there one, there was 3, 4, and Houses of the Holy. Unfortunately, there wasn't 2. Led Zeppelin 2 is the most controversial Led Zeppelin album in terms of all these discussions about masters, which version, blah, blah, blah. That's because Led Zeppelin 2 empirically and originally sounds like shit. This is the worst produced Led Zeppelin album, which is saying something because this is also pretty controversial. Led Zeppelin 2 sounds awful. Like, it is a flawed recording. And for that, there is no, like, you're on your own. Whatever your ears hear, and everybody's ears are fundamentally different. This album is the tough one. This is the one where it's like, well, whatever you hear, fine. No one's going to tell you you're wrong, because everyone has the opportunity to hate on every iteration of this thing. And so, you know, no, I don't have the second part of the box set. And 2 is also, just like Don just said, 2 is, yeah, Barry I don't know if it's Diamant or Diamond, but yeah, the OG CDs are all done by him, all of them, except for 4, which is done by a guy called John Simone or something. Or I could prep for these. They're not trying to be authoritative. This is just dialogue. But 3 is like crucially important if you care about Zeppelin and are a fan. Try to find this OG Atlantic CD, because the later ones, this gets messed with a lot, particularly the feedback at the beginning of is it Immigration Song or whatever? Immigration Song. But this is a later one, so this is cool. On the later ones, you get the Atlantic label replica, like similar to what you would see at the bottom of the screen here. These are like choice. I love this. Everything about this. This is how I love seeing it. It's an aesthetic thing, it's an object thing, but this to me is like idyllic, and that says a lot about like my age and being a Gen X fucking CD baby. But so this one again is a Diamond, sorry, Joe Sidor. Okay, thanks, NGC. Joe Sidore or Sidor, that's the guy who does 4 in the original Atlantic run, which was also at this store. And again, I paid $2 for these retail, so no shipping, for all of this. Every individual CD was $2 at this store, because they'd given up. They were under the vinyl. Like, they're making their money off the same idiots that pay $40 for Turnstile's album on fucking vinyl. Yeah, that wasn't recorded on a digital audio workstation, but I gotta have the vinyl. Like, what are you doing? And they're cleaning up. It's like, I mean, that's what the market will bear. Good for you. Make the money, man. You know, like, there's a good example I'll get to, which is if Tron's in. Oh, Tron is. All right, I got to make sure and do this while Tron's here. Sorry, because I told him I would. So, little brief tangent here. The other thing about retail stores, if you're in the middle of nowhere and you're not like in Brooklyn or whatever, you're not dealing with hipster tax. But there's plenty of hipsters everywhere, and they all have the internet. So they're going to take a punt on hip stuff and stuff they hear about on NPR. So actually, if you go to record stores, like, even though it might not be a cool store in a town that's like not a hipster, locus, there's still plenty of people that might have bought a CD that are older because they wanted to see what's going on with cool music now. So don't rule it out. In this case, I went through there and I found Fontaine's DC on CD, Doggerel on CD for $2. Because somebody heard about it on Pitchfork or NPR or something, bought it, and they were like, what the fuck is this? Morse to me, $2. Another one, probably an NPR rec, Juliana Barwick. Like, my favorite record of hers by far, if you don't know who she is, sort of an ambient composer, a little more composy, not like 100% droney. But this album, I think it was 2011 or 13, The Magic Place is my favorite of hers. $2, like silly, in the middle of nowhere. Like literally on my way to, I had to travel this week for work, and I'm like on my way, and when I'm on my way, I'll put in like local record stores in Google Maps. And if it looks like it's not just one room, with like 50 pieces of vinyl, like someone just selling their collection. If it's a real store, especially if it's like in a messed up warehouse space, like off behind a loading dock somewhere, that's a really good hit. Like, look for that. The location is a good indicator that this place is like a massive warehouse clearance place, which means it's going to take a while and you're going to have to go through it for longer. But you can find stuff like this. It's these two different things, like I'm saying. People sell CDs for all kinds of reasons. People buy them for all kinds of reasons. But in this case, somebody had taken a flyer on a couple of recent things and, boom, $2. And why not? So again, Sador, somebody thank you again for putting that in, did 4. And this is an older one. Again, similar to 1. This is the older style CD. So this is a really early one. But this whole window of the original Zeppelin CD project, as you can see, I haven't even had time to replace the cover. It's cracked pretty good. It's awesome because they all say, right, everywhere, produced by Jimmy Page, produced by Jimmy Page, produced by Jimmy Page. No, it wasn't. Nothing was ever produced by Jimmy Page. He's fucking worthless in the studio. But his name is loudly on every single Zeppelin release because he's a psycho control freak, and nothing can happen in Zeppelin world that isn't Jimmy Page sanctioned. But yeah, I got 4 and I got House of the Holy. Now this one was really controversial because obviously the artwork wasn't really up to 1980s snuff. They weren't having that. So you get the big old sticker in, and that's how you know for sure this is before any conversations about like, this is historically significant and maybe you should let the fact that this is a completely fucking inappropriate image slide. No, you shouldn't. Whatever. You got Scorpions, Virgin Killer, like that shit is super fucked up that ever happened in this society, but I'm not going there. So this one's interesting because this has the silver center, which is great. It's not a plastic center. I mean, it doesn't mean anything, but in an aesthetic way, I physically like the way these feel better. These round off, they're produced different. When you see the silver center, this is actually factually pressed different than a plastic circle. There's no difference in the sound quality but some people believe that, disc rot is more likely with one versus the other. But the edges of these are rounded off more. The plastic ones feel like an angle. These feel rounded. So it's this completely bizarre thing. It's just a little smile. Like if you find one like this, and it's that cheap, yeah, I'll get it every time out. So Blind Faith, yeah, oh, fuck me, Jesus, I know, it's so fucking whatever. The world changes, you got to figure out how to deal with it. Anyway, so I got 4. I got a bag of 4 OG run, 84 to 87, original. Sorry, I don't, again, know how to say this guy's name, Diamond Demon, and Sador's Masters. And I mean, I ripped these. You can look at the properties. There's an application called Spectro. You can look at the output from Exact Audio Copy, aka EAC. The potato famine of CD-ROT is coming to a hall near you. Yeah, probably. Who knows? Well, and then it's just another reason to get these 80s ones, because clearly they're going to be the most likely candidates for awful rot. These rip no problem, but they don't rip fast, which is kind of weird and funny. Like modern CDs will rip at like 17x on a good, clean burn with a good drive. I mean, I'm running a backpack drive that's like $30 from Amazon.com, but these old CDs don't burn fast. They only burn at like 5x. I don't know why that is. Super funny. But anyway, you can digitally, factually compare the output of all of this stuff, and it's hugely different. The dynamic response of these, if you pull them up in Spectro, again, or if you look at the Exact Audio Copy logs and outputs and compare them, the LRAs and the decibel levels on these are crazy different from the Merinos and especially the horseshit mothership stuff. And this is a really significant issue across classic rock catalogs, which, yeah, I know, we're not doing a hipster stream today. So the store also had, boom, talk about like, what a grab, man. These are two of the most controversially fucked with releases ever. And I got them each for $2. Warner Special Products pressing, the original pressing from '87 of Loaded. Like, and again, it sounds like the old tape that you would have had or the vinyl. It's really soft. It's got like hiss. But you can do what you were supposed to do with that and amplify it in this real stereo. We're not at the subscriber level yet where I'm going to be doing the kind of guide to my gear thing, but at some point I will do that vid. But yeah, I mean, this is rock and roll and Sweet Jane. I mean, come on, man. It's getting these, especially like I say, if you find a store that knows that considers CD dead and is just whatever, they're like $2 win. Great, everybody's happy, and I get this reference original copy, even if it's a curiosity, right? And these things have been, yeah, the Discovery buyout. There's another reason. Like you'll go by you'll go by the Warner headquarters, and they'll just be like boxes of wrapped 87 CDs because of the Discovery buyout. Yeah, and it's just, I mean, for me too. Again, like I was looking at, I didn't buy it. There was the Kids Are All Right soundtrack, original MCA pressing of the Kids Are All Right soundtrack. Also, I think '87, The Who. And on the back it says, although this is a digital recording and presentation, it has been mastered from source tapes that are analog. You may notice, sonic impurities and analog tape hiss. But it's like a paragraph, and they used to put that on the back to lesser and greater, verbosity of these CDs. And on the Velvet's Unloaded, it says right here, all original analog recordings digitally remastered. Like, they were super fussy about this. They anticipated that the audience and the listeners were going to be like, I don't know about this. You know what I mean? Like, it's super funny. And then all these little touches in that respect are just kind of great. So this one, yeah, you talk about going back. Look at how they used to make their CDs. Man, really, really doing justice to the Velvets and the artist here. It's literally looks like a friggin' like a industrial fucking CD, or like like the latest from Pfizer on COVID. Like, it's just so hilarious. Warner Special Product. You don't even know what this is. Like, oh, at the top in really small writing, it says The Velvet Underground Loaded. I can't read the track list because it's printed in fucking light blue on silver. Like, oh my God, it's so good. Gotta love it. And there's like an essay in here. Like, it's so good. This is the first appearance on compact disc of one of the greatest rock and roll albums ever recorded. Hard open. Hard. It's been said that only a few thousand people ever bought a Velvet Underground album, but every one of them formed a rock and roll band. This calculated overstatement gives a good idea of the tremendous influence of a band that issued only 4 proper albums in 5 years of existence. You don't need of existence. Like, you're supposed to be a writer. Could hardly be seen live outside a few choice metropolises. And never made a chart showing. Not only did the Velvets pioneer the use of noise, it's in quotes, in rock, thereby just about inventing the pop avant-garde in '65. They wrote about drugs, 20th century poets, and strange death as if they were everyday pop subjects. Oh my God. It's so good. Come on, $2. And this, I mean, we can go for hours. This is silly, man. I mean, there you go. There's the WEA, but it's the Electra. These, like, literally, if you were a Stooges fan at all, find this shit. These have never been treated properly by anyone since the original CD. Get the volume out of your system. Don't get it out of the computer. This is the one-liner, and this is the message that the music industry has completely failed to hear or to put in practice. And it's why every modern record sounds like shit, because they're either over EQing it, or they're over limiting it. They're putting too much. They're lowering the noise ceiling too much. This is the one you need. So, and I mean, all of them. Get the OG late '80s AAD Stooges CDs. They sound phenomenal. They sound so good. It's similar, like, think of Iggy's, 2 famous initial solo albums, Lust for Life and The Idiot. Think of the drum sounds on that. They're totally reliant and dependent on the room reflections and on the space being present, the space and the shape of the room. That needs to happen through an amplifier. That's why people like vinyl and talk about vinyl. I don't buy any of it because I can't deal with the pops and the hiss and the fact that you can't physically, sometimes you can't distinguish whether the treble is coming off the needle itself or your speakers. It depends on your setup. I don't have a fancy setup at all. I'm in a fucking basement. I'm in the Dadseum. But on the CDs, the beauty of it is you get the pure master tape preserved at a level where you can make decisions about how to amplify it. And that can even include equalization if you want to. If you don't care about the notion of purity and you care about satisfying yourself, you can take this as far as you want. But you need a source that can tolerate it and allow for that. And that's what the industry is taking away from us by remastering campaigns. Not good ones, of course, but most of them suck. I mean, I rebooted myself here coming back online about a couple of months ago, complaining about the Cure remasters in November, because the remaster of Wish, yet again, it's the least bad of a lot of them, but it's bad. And remastering sucks. The solution is not to go find Bob Ludwig original copy of Led Zeppelin 2 with, you know, the following written in the fucking run out groove. Like, no, that's not the answer. Unless you have tons of money and you love to spend your money on affectations, that's not really the way to go, in my opinion. Anyway, another tangent, because they had something really funny. The record label that I'm part of has a new release out by a band called Rat Punch. They're from Knoxville, Tennessee. They're a grindcore band. If you've ever heard of Anal, See You Next Tuesday, Pig Destroyer, like grind bands that realize grind is inherently a silly, funny genre and have fun with it. Like my favorite of all time famously is Discordance Axis, you know, and they have a song called Sega Bass Fishing, which is just, it's literally them playing for 30 seconds a grindcore version of the Sega Bass Fishing Dreamcast games theme song. And then Chang at the end just goes, "Enjoy your fishing." Like, I mean, I love that. If you're not having fun, like Poison Ideas is kind of where this comes from, you know? Picture of Jesus, pick your king. If you're doing like crazy intense music, for me, if I'm going to enjoy it, I need it to have a sense of humor a little bit. I don't need it to be goofy. I don't need it to be They Might Be Giants, but like, let me know that you get it. Because I've said before, and people probably, there's only, you know, 20 people or whatever watching, like everybody knows I can't stand like death metal and like, you know, extreme, terrifying noise music, all that crap. It puts me to fucking sleep. Like, wake up, pull your head out of your ass. It's a guitar, like whatever. Anyway, these guys are great. This thing, we're selling it on the site for $8. It's like 17 minutes of blast beat. It's just, you know, hilarious. And you know, someone else on the label kind of essentially A&R'd this and brought it, and we talked about it, and I looked at it and I was like, they have a song called Black Metal Face Groups Are Really Funny. Done, sign it. And so this is a CD pressing, and the artwork is so fucking great. I mean, we have nothing to do with this. This is the band or one of their, you know, designers' friends did this. The cover is just, I think it's just, I mean, look how it lays right in. You know what I mean? It's just awesome. So I was really stoked, because I actually am like almost happier when we're doing stuff that isn't about me or relationships I've had or bands I like, because then it's like more like a label, and I don't it's not to do with, you know, like, and I can be lazy. So anyway, this is on CD, mutualskies.com. Or you can go to the band's Bandcamp. Rat Punch has a Bandcamp page. They're selling it there. Either way, we'll be shipping it direct to you. And the reason I mention it as a tie-in is this store had the anthology CD of Swallowing Shit. I was like, no way, you got to be kidding me. But it was there was like a whole hash section of like, you know, black metal, you know, all the bands with the like, and recent stuff. So they have an audience down there around their record store that buys death metal. And somebody dumped this. So anyway, this album's called It's a Drink by Rat Punch. Please pick it up, because we need to start moving some units on that one. But yeah, they had this, and I was like, oh man, fucking awesome. I never bought this. I mean, again, this is a Canadian, you know, sense of humor band, like similar to, you think of Propagandhi, a band that was like, you know, doot doot pee pee poo poo funny, but hyper political. Similar thing, you know, like, but they have hilarious, like, you're not old school, you're just old. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot, just stupid funny shit. And again, I love grind, and because the best part is when the band is technically sick, you know what I mean, at the same time as they're making a goof on it. Like a shitty grindcore band is not a good experience. It's just like, no, you have to, the technical aspect of it kind of needs to be there. Another band which I was originally going to start the channel on, Sonic Youth, but I didn't do it, or I did and we didn't finish it, or it had a technical problem. Anyway, I just wanted to make fun of Cheddars here. Yeah, if you pay more than $2 for this, you're insane. You should be able to get it 50 cents. All the DGC Sonic Youth stuff, kids didn't like it. Like we might like it. Sonic Youth fans love it. But the DGC Sonic Youth records all day on CD for nothing. So, you know, I don't like them. I didn't like them at the time, so I didn't own them. But now that I can get them for nothing, I'm getting them. Similarly to the Pitchfork Effect, the later records. This isn't one of my favorites, but like Murray Street, Rather Ripped, and Sonic Nurse, that triptych, I love. I've talked about it before in the stream, I know. I need to start a spreadsheet about stuff I've talked about before. But I bring this up because I literally just got these in this haul. They had them. And Sonic Youth is a great one where you can get a pretty, you know, heavy chunk of their discography for nothing, because they got signed to a major, because they were blessed by Kurt Cobain. And so from, you know, Goo through Experimental Jet Set, the Beastie Boys era, the Nirvana era, there's tons of teenagers that are essentially being told, you should like this. But by the time you get to Washing Machine, a lot of those kids are like, no, I do not like this, and I'm done. And Sonic Youth stops becoming like a Beastie Boys, you know, cool, hard rock feeling thing, and they become like indie rock again, like, or for the first time. They become a softer option, in my view, as soon as you get to Washing Machine. This is where the nature, like their audience changes, and it becomes kind of like music nerds. And I think the music is the reason for that, because I don't like any of it. But yeah, that whole run on DGC, you can get for nothing. From Goo onward, it drops for you. So, I mean, yeah, look, like I get it. I'm a huge Goo fan. But I do think Dirty is okay. Dirty is just Goo too. I mean, the mirror image is sort of like, you know, I think about like Disintegration and Wish. To me, like, you know, Daydream Nation is most Sonic Youth fans are going to say, like, that's the one. Like, no questions asked. This is the artistic perfection of the whole Sonic Youth idea. It still even has touches back to the crazy no wave shit they started out with. And yet it's such a mature, tight, beautiful record. And it's crazy that it was on the shittiest label, Enigma. I mean, this came out, the release prior to this that Enigma put out, I believe, was Poison. Was Look What the Cat Dragged In, or whatever. Or the one that got banned for the tongue. And then they, you know, and then they get signed to DGC, and they significantly polish their pop instincts on Goo. And I think it's perfect. I think Goo is a perfect album. And it can easily be found on OG CD. The remaster's fine. There's so much extra stuff because there were a million CD EPs, singles released around this, that you can get, that include all kinds of different stuff. And then Sonic Youth themselves, they have their own label, Sonic Death. They put out the demos from this, which are really awesome. Some of them had already been put out, like the Disappear single has some of that. But yeah, all that material in that window. When you get into 90s Sonic Youth, my point being, you know, whether or not you're hugely into that sound or ever liked it, you can get it for nothing. And just as a collector thing, $2 if you got it, why not? Also some greatest hits recommendations. Gen X is a band you can get for nothing on a greatest hits basis. You know, they only really had essentially like one real album, and they were breaking up from kind of the moment they were together in terms of the studio. But this one's got 15 tracks. It's the original Chrysalis Masters. This is from 1990, I think they put this out, 91. And that's, yeah, this is, you know, late days Chrysalis. But, you know, they're not like a singles band because they have so many great songs that weren't, you know, that weren't hits as singles, whether they were released or not. Like Youth, Youth, Youth is killer, Triumph, and that's what this ends with. But you get the OG Dancing With Myself at the top, you know, and you get, you know, all the classics, Kiss Me Deadly, you know, English Dream. But anyway, this is a greatest hits band. So what I'm saying, you know, look at the track list. Special products divisions of Universal or whatever owns Chrysalis now. This it doesn't matter which one you get, but it's a band. Look for a greatest hits if you're filling out a basket or a Discogs card or a haul, and you see a Gen X greatest hits and you don't have any of their stuff. Grab it, because the big remaster reissue of that they put out. Let me pull it up. Actually, I should. I remember when this came out and it wasn't good. That album, this album is so dumb. I mean, Kiss Me Deadly is kind of better in that way. But anyway, of the compilations that have been put out, it's only listing 8 legit ones on Gen X, on Discogs for Gen X. This one, Perfect Hits, was kind of the last one, and it's the truest. This anthology that EMI put out is a little bit much, and it's pretty hot. I wasn't that into it. I thought it sounded like shit. It's not bad, but it just doesn't seem like whoever mastered it actually gave a shit about it. And it was not a good recording to begin with. Gen X's original recordings were legit no budget punk shit. So there's not much to work with. And I would just say, you know, 12 starting at $33, no way. You don't need this. I mean, there's just not, they only had like, you know, 15 songs. And I mean, some of them are barely songs. So yeah, it's not one I would go for. That old comp. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I've got to. I didn't have time, Trant, to get this aligned right. I have to reset my entire whatchamacallit OBS layout. I just didn't have time. I've been traveling, so sorry about that. But you know, whatever. So yeah, I'm actually a fan of the Perfect Hits. I think it's kind of all you need. Another one is Stray Cats. Stray Cats is a killer greatest hits. It's 25 songs long. I mean, there are not more than 25 Stray Cats tracks you ever need to hear. But it goes up to like a lot of like the good, the decent later stuff. The interesting thing about the later stuff is like Stray Cats just stayed in their lane, but later on they get produced really well, just as a matter of course. And so, you know, Stray Cats is another great one. This particular one is really pretty extensive. It's all the way back to 1981 to 92. So you're getting a 25 track survey of their entire output. You got all the hits that, you know, you would expect, Rock This Town, whatever. You know, by far the biggest mainstream rockabilly band, you know, tribute throwback, you know, thing. Yeah, they're not the Cramps, but like, you know, they had some great shit. It was a great band. I love their whole thing. And it again, totally satisfied with the $2 greatest hits. I don't need to go any further than that. I don't need to go find like a, you know, enormous box set of their stuff, you know, to make sure I've got all the deep cuts and demo mixes of of their shit. So this was the sickest thing that happened last week. Yeah. So I found a copy of this for $8.99. Pretty fucking stoked. It's not like it's impossible to find, and I don't know if you know De Croizen, like this is like a crazy thrash band in the middle of nowhere in where are they from? Milwaukee Milwaukee. And their first 2 records, the self-titled and October File, get compiled by Touch and Go into, it's just called October File, but it has the original album on it as well. It's just that back then people didn't know how to do this right. So it's the real album art. They didn't create new album art for it. So you think it's only the October File one, but then you open it up and it's like, oh no, it's both albums and here's the artwork for the other one. So yeah, getting this for $8.99 is great, because I only ever had the tape of October File. I never even owned or found the first 84 record. That's so early in Touch and Go. But this is, I mean, if you're a fan of like hard, you know, thrash style, or even grindcore, I mean, this is the song Melt at the end of this is one of my favorite thrash songs like fucking ever. I mean, the kick, like I think of like Fear, the first, you know, the debut Fear album, Fear the record. The drummers, like his kick drum is so crazy and sloppy, but awesome sloppy. Like it's inaccurate, but like the frenetic, you know, energy and passion is just so fucking sick. Yeah, that shit rules. And like finding that CD was great, because I don't know, like a lot of times I don't know how this is delineated on on Discogs, and yeah, here it is, TGN LP7. So this is it. So you got, I mean, look, it looks like you got 8 people selling it, and you can get one for, oh, you can get it for like $12.99. It must be back in print or something. Great, go get it. It's awesome. I never thought to look, because at one point in the past I had looked, and this thing was going for stupid money. Sealed, sealed, sealed. They must have repressed this. Everybody's got it now. Awesome, get it. I got it for $8.99. I'm stoked. And I doubt the artwork has changed or anything. So, you know, that's one I would definitely recommend. Again, if you like, you know, I talked about in the compilations one, you know, big hits of Mid-America and whatever. If you like that Midwestern, mid-'80s, post-Huskers kind of world, these guys were an outstanding example of it. You know, burned out, didn't fade away, just did those, you know, those 2 records, and then this really kind of sketch later stuff that nobody was hugely into. Also found this one, you know, really oddly not that easy to find, but I just said that about this and it had been reprinted, so let me make sure that that this hasn't been too. As you know, we recently lost Anton Fear, and some it was, you know, sad, but Anton, this band, the Golden Palominos, started out as like a, you know, super independent, you know, art rock band, let's say, back in the day, and they were weirdly on this label called Celluloid, and it's made it hard to find their records, because they're essentially, you know, they started in France and they moved to New York, and then they started signing bands, and they signed really avant-garde bands like the Golden Palominos. I've said before, or at least I tweeted out, this is such an iconic cover. It's so great. I have this on vinyl just to, you know, just to have it as an object. But what I found, and I want to see, yeah, it goes for nothing. So there's 1 million copies of this everywhere for $1. Cool. Good. So this is one you want to get online. There's a lot of it's in the EU. So I found a dead horse for $2, which I was pretty stoked about. You know, again, didn't really, well, there's somebody trying to get $31 for factory sealed. Give me a break. This is not like necessarily a popular Golden Palominos record, but you know, this is a band I've collected over the years, and this was one I just never came across at a really steal price in any of my Discog shopping. The one you can get for nothing always is Drunk with Passion. The one after this, because Michael Stipe appears on it, it's on a different label, and it's super super easy to find Drunk with Passion. It was massively promoted due to the exploding success of REM, and you know, they were basically, I think, I don't know if Pete Buck's on it too, or Mills, somebody, I think both, there's 2 different people. This is like the whole period of what were they called? Oh, there was another side project band. Anyway, the older ones, you know, the celluloid ones, apparently based on Discogs, that's the way to get them. I would rarely find them for like less than normal prices. So I was stoked to get this for $2. It sort of almost finishes up what I'm worried about having, or interested in having from them. And then I tweeted this out. It was a replacements bootleg for $2. I was like, I don't know if they know what this is. Obviously, you can't get this on Discogs because they block it. There are 3 different versions of this show that were pressed. This is a real CD. It's not a CDR, which is kind of nice. It was done in Italy, and it's an amazing show. It's like the last replacement show, like sort of. It was recorded. The date that's listed on it is wrong. It says it was recorded in Madison, Wisconsin. It wasn't. It was recorded in whatchamacallit Park in Chicago in '91, not '92. But the set list is unbelievable. It's like I Will Dare, Aching to Be, Swingin' Party. They close with Hootenanny. Within Your Reach is in here. And then some songs from All Shook Down, which was their latest album, their last album, and one of my favorite replacements records. But yeah, finding a pressed, anytime I can find a pressed CD bootleg, I'm going to jump on it, and I did. And then, what do we got? We got about 10 minutes left. Oh, and then I found this. Somebody asked about Sade. Somebody asked about Sade in another stream, and I was, or maybe we were talking about it on Discord. With that, I had said, you know, Lovers Rock and the Greatest Hits, and then at a push, maybe Diamond Life. And what I forgot until I saw it in front of me is that because they had Diamond Life for $2 or whatever. The reason I got it is not because I'm like the biggest Sade fan in the world, but because I forgot that they did this. When this came out, they phonetically spelled Sade, and I don't know if every edition of Diamond Life has this, but what I thought it was so goddamn funny, I didn't even care for $2 that I got it. Day. I mean, that's awesome. So I just thought that was so hilarious, and I am a fan. And this is obviously the album that Smooth Operator was on that broke them. But yeah, I mean, silly things like that. For if you're going for if you're finding CDs for $2 and under, like I'll get into that for curiosity reasons, for fun. At that point, I've already got the Led Zeppelin box set for $10, and all the OG 87 Atlantic CDs for $2 a piece. One of them was actually 50 cents because the CD was cracked. I mean, the case was cracked. Like, you're giving me a discount for a cracked case all day. But yeah, I was mentioning this album, Drunk with Passion. Like I say, Alive and Living Now features lead vocals from Michael Stipe, and so this record was everywhere. And it's a totally different thing. It is a very commercial, like, big, it sounds like kind of The Church in places. Like, there's no relationship with early Golden Palominos and Drunk with Passion. And Dead Horse is like, they called it that for a reason. Like, they were hitting the wall. And that was around the time, you can see the album art will indicate to you, that is right when Mau Mau put out the histories. And these are awesome, and you can get them all day for nothing. One is the early, and then one is kind of the mid lane. I love these compilations. I got these, when I was a teenager trying to learn about old cool music. Record store clerk like kind of clued me in on, this is a great way to get into the Palos and like see what you think. So those two compilations are really excellent. And again, they're on Mau Mau. You can get them usually for nothing. And I'd recommend, if you see them, they're a band I'm a big fan of. There was a reissue thing of this in Germany, I guess. Yeah, that's not the one I'm thinking of. Oh, the Golden Stars box. Yeah. This is weird. I mean, I don't know. I think it's just a really shitty repackage they did. Yeah, it is. Ugh. I no idea if this is remastered or screwed with or anything. Looks like you can get it for nothing, but I wouldn't bother. If you can get the original article, why not? This is their first 3 albums. It's the original Palos, Visions of Excess, which is fantastic, and Blast to Silence. But they're, again, it depends if this is the kind of stuff you're into, but they're a very collectible band. So that's sort of the point. Again, like, it's not about necessarily, it's sort of the matrix of like, is the band a good target for value collecting on CD as well? And like, are they any good? The Palominos, the Golden Palominos were a really diverse, strange band that really didn't limit themselves to trying to be a shoegaze band or like a heavy metal band. Like, they did a lot of interesting, in the great tradition of the experimental stuff Anton Fier was always involved in. So, with his passing, I wanted to mention them and, my kind of relationship with them. This album also, Pure, was really heavy, and you can get everywhere. It was on Restless, so there's a lot of, there's going to be a lot of copies of it. But the work with Laswell, he changes and does whatever he wants. My copy of Diamond Life definitely doesn't have that. Yeah, so again, I mean, it's probably, nobody's ever going to find a bottom for how stupid they'll assume and unsophisticated Americans are. We need to be told phonetically how to pronounce Sade. Who knows, man? For all we know, the band she could have demanded it. I don't know. But yeah, so probably going to run it there. First just kind of whipped off Haul one. I haven't had time. Like I say, it's been a busy week. So thanks to everybody for coming out. Hopefully the new mic though, when I get this downloaded, is solid and solves that problem. It was a frustrating amount of distortion in the last couple streams. Just trying to get this thing right is a bit of a problem, just because I barely have the time to do this, and this is just like clicking record on something. But I'll check that out, and I'll get the whole layout fixed, so Trant doesn't get upset. I don't want to have him having any angina or anything. I'm glad the audio sounds good. Yeah, this is an analog mic, funnily enough, right? Like, I plugged an analog mic into the 16th jack, and the USB mics were always distorting. The USB lav mics, I tried 3 of them. So yeah, anyway. All right, cool. So yeah, we'll get it all sorted up. I'll see you Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern time, and we'll probably do another haul actually, because I'm a little bit backed up. New mic sounds crisp. Because somebody has a version of the word crisp. Anyway, all right. So thanks for coming out. I'm gonna shut it here, and we'll see you, like I said, Thursday. Head to MutualSkies.com, buy all of our records that we've been putting out. We got a few more coming up soon. It's going to be a really busy year for the label. And yeah, hopefully you're enjoying what we're doing and getting into it. And we'll see you out there. Bye.